On today's edition of Wedding Market Chat, Nashville Weddings, with special guests, celebrity cake designer Jay Qualls, celebrity wedding planner Angela Profit, and Vincent Dreffs, Director of Catering Operations at Gaylord Opryland. This Wedding Market Chat is sponsored by Gaylord Opryland and PSAV Presentation Services. Now, your host, Julie Abaugh.
My name's Julie Abaugh. I'm the editor of Wedding Market News. And we started these Wedding Market Chats about a year ago. We just celebrated our first anniversary. And we are so glad to be here in Nashville. I'm going to ask our guests a series of questions. And we ask you to hold your questions until we open the floor and when you tweet. So when you do have a question you'd like to ask our panel, we ask you to post it on Twitter. We will have wedding professionals from all across the country and in some cases around the world that will be joining our chat today. So my first question is we're going to ask our guest a little bit about how they got into the wedding industry.
I got into the wedding industry years ago, almost by fluke, and it was unique enough that it intrigued me, and that was to plan a wedding on a ski slope in lower Michigan, southeastern lower Michigan. So all the challenges of a wedding on skis.
Me getting into the industry was by accident as well. My degree's in psychology. I worked in mental health, and I knew I wanted to always help people, but didn't really want to work in mental health anymore. So I love to create things and do fun things with brides. And there's a happy light at the end of the tunnel, where in mental health, there's not always a happy ending.
I started decorating cakes about 20 years ago, basically out of necessity. I did my daughter's first birthday cake on April the 25th, 1992, and loved the art of cake design and cake decorating. And then in 2004, I got laid off from my corporate healthcare job as a healthcare administrator and didn't ever want to step back into that realm of the corporate world unless it was my corporate world. So I started Maples Wedding Cakes in January of 2005, and I've been living my dream through cake and sugar and frosting and people ever since, and I'm having a blast.
Try to tell me what makes Nashville such a unique destination.
You know, Nashville has a charm about it, and I hate to limit it to Southern charm because it's so much more than that. I feel that our city has a lot to offer for everybody that's coming to a wedding, despite where they originate from. Mainly our historical attractions, our southern mansions, our presidential homes, our live music venues. Nashville embraces very diverse cultures, so it's prevalent here and very symbiotic with the rest of the town. I think our climate, we have a very temperate climate most of the year. Our airport, we would be remiss not to say that the ease of our airport is amazing. And most importantly is our CVB, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, truly embraces any industry that's bringing people to Nashville and will act as your advocate as long as you engage them. So it's an incredible resource.
Nashville has a lot to offer. It's just a very different market. I do destination weddings as well, so I think what sets Nashville apart mainly are just the friendly people. Everyone is so friendly. If you get lost and stop and ask for directions, everyone's willing to help, and there's just a lot of southern charm here. And the city is a city, but it's not too big to where you have to sit in traffic for 3 hours. Everything's in walking distance on Broadway, so your guests can stay downtown and experience the fun honky-tonks and go to your wedding and make a vacation out of it.
We're known for being the volunteer state, and we have such a diverse culture here where you have music venues like the Ryman Auditorium, which is a historic venue, all the way to the Frisk Center, which is an art museum, and Cheekwood. And when brides bring their families and their guests to Nashville, there are so many diverse opportunities to go and visit so many different types of venues and experience music and art and theater. And we have TPAC that brings, nationally acclaimed shows to this city. And at any given moment, you can go online and book your travel and your entertainment for your guests and your lodging and your venue and everything. And we have so many to offer. I think that's why we're such a popular destination. And not to mention the fact that everybody in this town, for the most part, it's a big little city, and everybody is so opening and welcoming and fun and excited to have visitors.
That Nashville's within 500 miles of 90% of the U.S. population. So it's very easy to get here. If you want to consider it a central location for bringing people together.
What does Gaylord Opryland offer for a wedding?
I think the first very neat attribute that we have here we're experiencing right now, and that is al fresco opportunities without the risk of the weather. I hear a lot of times people making Plan B, and you have to make Plan B for a bride just as enjoyable as Plan A, so that they still love their day should something out of their control happen. So al fresco, the opportunity to have an event outside without the risk of the weather is one of our best features. This is our mid-sized garden that we're in. This is 5 acres under glass here. The Delta Garden's a little bigger, and the Garden Conservatory is a little smaller. So it's a total of 11 acres under glass. The other unique thing that we offer here is, and I tell brides this all the time, I say it's the world's longest aisle for them to come down, because from the bridal suite to their ceremony location can be a considerable distance, but it's probably the best distance they've ever walked. As even strangers step aside, they let that beautiful gown come through, they shout a sentiment, a well wish, and I just can't imagine what that bride truly feels as she's making her way to finally join hands with Prince Charming, knowing that complete strangers have, endorsed her big day.
How many different wedding locations you actually have to offer here?
This building, not our land, but this building is 115 acres, and I always tell anyone that's doing an event here to look at it as a blank palette, because with 2,881 rooms, even the balconies make a very quaint, intimate wedding for a bride, if that's what the feeling of their big day is chosen to be. There are 7 main assembly points in the hotel itself that the bride can choose. The largest is, up to 1,500 people at our Delta Fountain. We also have 2 great locations at Gaylord Springs Golf Links, and then we have 2 river boats as well, both of varying sizes. The General Jackson is a 1,200 passenger riverboat, and the Music City Queen is about 300. So depending on what the bride wants for her day, it generally can be found here at Opryland.
How far in advance should a bride plan a wedding in Nashville? And also, what is the smallest amount of time, that they can do that?
I like to have a year, at least 12 months, but over the past 18 months, I've noticed where brides are calling 5 to 6 months, and I'm lucky to get 8 months to work with someone, but I like the shorter period. It gives them less time to obsess over it and change their mind. And, yeah. So, in being in planning for 10 years, people used to contact me 15 to 18 months in advance, which is kind of crazy. But now I think life is getting busier, and with technology and with the internet, people are on the move a lot more, and they don't know where they're going to be in 12 months. So 6 to 8 months is normal.
And I'll reiterate, when you're booking 12 to 18 months or even 9 to 12 months out, trends are going to change in this industry. As we know, there's a cyclical process with style, with trends, and I really don't like the word trend. I think it's overused. Angela and I have done a couple of weddings. We did one wedding in 8 days. We're doing a wedding this month in 3 weeks. A big wedding, a huge wedding with a Yemen wedding. That, what that's involved in doing. We're literally turning it over in three weeks. The wedding is June 23rd. If you give the client too many options and too much time to obsess over details, a lot of brides can't make a decision. They're so overwhelmed by images and information that it kind of freaks them out a little bit. And it's our job as professionals to pull them back in and make decisions for them based on what they've told us. And that's how I handle my clients. I want to please my clients, but I also want to capture what they're thinking. But then also I want to lead them into a decision that they're going to be happy with. I think that's what I'm being charged with as a professional, is leading them into a decision. So I would love to have 9 months, but here in the past couple years, it's been 6 months. For me, as far as I'm concerned with cake, I'd say 6, maybe even 3 to 6 months on average.
What is the price range a couple will pay for a wedding in Nashville? An average range.
I mean, it's really kind of all over the place because it depends on your venue. Mm-hmm. It depends on, back to venues. If you have a venue such as Gaylord, you don't have to bring anything in. Everything is here. Your tables, chairs, china, flatware, glassware, linens, votives. There's so much that's already here versus going into a venue like the Pinnacle or Houston Station where it's just a complete blank slate and you have to bring everything in and build it from the ground up, which those are my favorite because it's just a completely blank slate and I can help a bride and groom really bring their vision to life. So it really just depends mainly on the guest count. The guest count is what completely drives the budget. You have 500 versus 100. Obviously, it's going to cost more.
I don't think brides are educated enough to really understand that literally adding 10 guests to an event means $100 per person for that budget. When you put everything, that you have to define it and drive it down to a number that they understand. Because they're not understanding. All they think is, I want these 10 guests, they have to be at my wedding. They don't understand there's a place setting for that person, there's an invitation for that person, there's a linen for that person, a chair for that person. And like Angela said, it depends on what venue you pick as to how far in how much that drives that budget up. Pass is educating the consumer so that they understand that and know what to expect when they sit down with their planner or their vendors, that they're not shocked and they don't have sticker shock. I think we have a lot of work to do in educating the consumer.
What are some of the trends in wedding cakes this year? That's my question.
I mean, what drives wedding cake trends is fashion. That's one of the things that drives wedding cake trends. Also, we've got bloggers now that put out lots of images. And I'm inspired personally by everything. When I go to design a new line of wedding cakes each year, I never look at images of other wedding cakes. I look at images of nature, of wallpaper, of fabric, of people's clothing, of textiles, I don't look at cakes. I don't go on the knot and see whatever's on the knot because that's not going to discern me from different. You're going to have your classic bride where you've got the Chanel look. You've got a classic look. You've got a simple, elegant look. You've got a traditional look. And I don't like the word traditional. I like the word timeless. I think it's much better. Traditional means old. And vintage is old too, but vintage can mean a lot of things differently than traditional.
Something that Jay does that's kind of different from what other cake designers do is he really wants to know the big picture. So the cake table isn't always a 48-inch round with a linen on it. He goes out of the way to style it and make sure that it goes with the overall decor, which takes a lot of time, a lot more time.
You can make a cake look like $1 million cake by just changing the linen, by changing the shape table. Majority of the tables that you see cakes on, what are they? All at once. When I say 1, 2, 3, what shape are the table? 1, 2, 3. Round. Forget it.
Jim, one of my questions is I saw a picture. It was on Pinterest. I actually started a Frank Lloyd Wright board on Wedding Market, and it was inspired by your wedding cake. How did you design or come up with the idea to design a Frank Lloyd Wright cake?
About 3 years ago, I had a very forward-thinking couple And I love it when I get the opportunity to work with people who think that way and think outside the box. And they brought a stained glass window of Frank Lloyd Wright work of art. So it's more than just a cake to me. I want it to have a meaning behind it.
For Gaylord Opryland what is the easiest way for vendors to get on your vendors list?
Call me. You know, that is an age-old question, and vendor lists are almost archaic anymore. Only because in the end, everybody that is going to serve a couple, the couple needs to believe in that person's business. My recommendation or the company's recommendation are really secondary to providing a resource. And that comes to what Jay and Angela have spoke about in educating them. In the end, they're ultimately employing the service and paying for it. And if it isn't somebody and something that they love and are just as interested in the success of their wedding events, then it's probably not the right fit for them. So a limited vendor list, to me, is a limited service to the couple, which is not what I choose to be known for. So it is amazing, as I've thrown myself deeper and deeper into the wedding industry more and more recently, it is amazing to hear people ask that question. And in 27 years, my phone number's never changed. So it's a great conversation to have. In the end, all we want to know is if you destroy the building by negligence, can you take care of it?
Question from Wedding 101 is how Pinterest is going to impact the wedding industry?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
There's some issues with Pinterest right now that we all need to pay serious attention to, and I don't know, some of you may have seen the posts on Facebook. I reposted some of that stuff. There's an issue with copyright stuff with Pinterest, and I read it. I had my attorney read it, and there's some issues in there that make me a little bit nervous. I haven't repinned anything since I read that article. Basically what it is in a nutshell, and it's much more complicated than this, but there was an attorney who is also a wedding vendor who took the terms and conditions of Pinterest and dissected it. If you repin something that doesn't belong to you, you are breaking the terms and conditions of Pinterest.
I have to admit there are a lot of legal issues with Pinterest, but all I can tell you is in the sense is you need to make sure that if you're using some photographer's image that you give them credit. And no photographer is going to get mad at you for using their photograph if you are giving them credit, because that is free promotion. So just make sure you give them credit, and that is the big issue.
If you take the picture yourself, or if you own the photo and you pin it, it's yours. And if you give credit to that photographer, you followed the rules. We're going to have to be a little bit more respectful and careful about how we use Pinterest. I think it'll work itself out, but I think we should be mindful. And you should go read the article. If you just Google it, you'll find the article. And it's a very good article, but it's very long, and she dissected it and gave some very valid explanations for it.
I like to think that all of us do our profession because we love to see the look on the couple's face when they finally see the vision in real life. And many times, if your work is published on social media and you have a true relationship with that couple, between the ceremony and the reception or wherever they're going, they may have already picked up something that's been posted out there, and therefore the element of surprise is diminished. I don't want to say it goes away, but it's diminished. So I caution you in using those services prior to the actual reveal that you might be ruining a surprise, one that you intentionally meant to have be a surprise or unintentionally ended up being one for the bride and groom.
Yeah, last year I got screamed at by a bride because her cake was put on Facebook and Twitter and some of her reception site before her or any of her guests saw it. And, it's not my fault, but as the planner now, the vendors that I work with and all of my timelines, I say, please be respectful of.
Angela, my question to you, what wedding trends do you see this year in Nashville and maybe nationally, and how those are different, I guess?
Well, I'm kind of like Jay. I don't really like the word trend. I try to work with the couples to find out who they are, and they really come to me because they don't know what they want. So I do a psychology analysis on them and figure out who they are and what they do personally and professionally and how they met, and then create something around that. But dessert bars, yeah, they were in last year and the year before that, but they're still very much there. In Nashville, a lot of brides want that country elegance. So I think barn tables and crystal chandeliers and pearls, I think I've used in every wedding this year. Not because I want that, but because the brides see pictures on Pinterest and see things that we've done, and they think it's beautiful and lovely, so they want to do that. But we try to recreate it in a different way, so it's theirs and not their sorority sisters. What other? Oh, I think lighting. Not that it's a trend, but girls and the grooms are really taking part in understanding what lighting can do and how it can enhance your event.
What are some of the latest trends in catering?
The bride and groom, as we talked about, some of the rules going out the window, the classic round table, white cloth, every centerpiece matches. This is their day. They are going to make this event about them. And if they are a fun couple who happens to love French fries, the grooms only care about things that they can touch. So if you ask their opinion about what should be, what should be spoken at the wedding, they're probably not going to care. But if you ask them about the linen or the food, they're probably going to have an opinion. So, like today, dessert fries. If the groom happens to be a French fry fanatic, stops every day like I do for Starbucks to get his French fries at McDonald's, that's a tribute to the groom. So trends in catering are more guest forward as opposed to traditional. I've seen everything from so guest forward that we're now offering choice of entrees at weddings because nobody wants to wrangle the details of the RSVPs, and then when they get there, who remembers and how do you communicate it? And a yellow, a pink, and a blue card on the table ruins Angela's incredible designs. So
we have really cute places and escort cards.
If we got to use them, they come out. But it's a way that then it becomes more of a restaurant-style setting, gives the person a choice. Maybe they may have ordered steak, and that day they want chicken. So the trends are geared more towards guest preference, really reminiscent of the bride and the groom. The spaghetti and meatballs you tasted today I was in a serious negotiation with a bride that it's a family tradition for 150 weddings. They've served spaghetti and meatballs, and under no circumstance was I going to serve spaghetti and meatballs. However,
did you?
Add an ounce of creativity. They can have it in the pre-reception, just as you had it today, skewered on a fork, one bite, and it's gone, and we disappear, and it never goes into the room. And spaghetti and meatballs are served, and I made the bride promise that if I could get it done, she would let it go. And I think in the end, she had to swallow hard because she made that agreement, but we're done.
What are some of the most unique wedding venue locations in Nashville, besides Gaylord Opryland?
There's so many good venues. I mean, obviously, Gaylord is beautiful. There's 7 locations here, but like the Pinnacle, for example, is on the 21st floor of the city. It's all glass. It's a huge square, but it's a completely blank slate. So I'll tweet a before and after picture in a minute, but lighting has a lot to do. And then you've got Bellmead Plantation, which is a stable style, which can be that country elegance or an Indian inspiration wedding. There's a lot of great venues downtown that are in walking distance as well. Houston Station is another warehousey with the wood that's beautiful.
How do each of you uniquely use social media to promote your business and connect with potential brides?
Okay, so Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, RSS feeds, Dig Dug, Foursquare, all of those things that you can tie in together. And then everything, as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be branded by your brand, your Facebook, your Twitter, everything. You need to saturate the market with your brand, and then you need to make sure the market understands who you are by having continuity in branding. And then you should always, I think at this point, there's a huge underlying secret. The reason Facebook bought Instagram is because everything's going to become image-driven, and this industry already is image-driven. I don't sell cakes online because they can taste them. I sell cakes online because they think they're pretty, and that makes them call me. Do you understand? Also, I've tested the market to see if I just take a white cake, set it on a white linen in front of a light background, to see if I get any response through social media. And then I take that exact same cake, I style it differently, I put it on a beautiful linen that's contrasting but still complementary in the color palette, and then I will complement it with a custom-made stand and a backdrop that is beautiful, and then style it like as if I were styling for Southern Living. Guess what? They call. And that's what I've taken advantage of and learned from and started doing. And you can do exactly the same thing with a really nice camera that's not too expensive.
We meeting yesterday, one of the things that we kind of all discovered was, your next client is sitting in the room of your current client. If you've got a great client, they're inviting people that probably are, going to be your next great customer. So you have to figure out the way to make sure that everybody in that room knows exactly who you are, whether they can dial back through their friend and find you in their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram feeds, or, you have something at the event that, is truly self-promoting.
When you do use social media marketing as an advertising tool to promote yourself and your brand, it seems a little narcissistic, but it's really not, okay? The key to that is what's happening is you're actually optimizing yourself on all the web searches and spiders. They're crawling the web because you're posting relevant content and images. When you're tweeting and Instagramming and Tumblring and all these fun things and Facebooking, you're putting relevant content in there that's going to organically bring you higher on Google organically. So that when a bride types in floral designer Nashville, wedding planner Nashville, you may not get your clients directly from the internet, but that's where they're going to start. And then they're going to go ask questions from other people who've used these clients, who's used Angela, who's used myself. And then they're going to start making decisions after doing interviews. And if they don't interview, you need to be careful with that client. I mean, you need to be discerning as well as a vendor. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're making money. So just be really, really careful with that, because you'll get caught up in working yourself to death for free.
Basically, what do you want people to take away from the Wedding Market Chat today?
Educating the consumer and the vendor, so that you can bring them and they both have the same expectations when they come together, and it's a good fit or a good marry, if you will, pardon the pun. Long term, I think you get good business out of educating the client. And I think we have that responsibility as professionals in this industry to educate each other and be respectful of each other and educate each other, because I'm still learning something new every single day.
I think it's partnership for me. Develop partnerships, no matter where you are. If somebody is limiting you to being involved in their business, their sight in this industry is very limited. So that's probably not a partnership. As much as you may think that's your next gold mine, it's probably not the best partnership for you. So go to those people that are willing to open their doors and allow you in and teach you how to do business in their business or with their business. And feel free or be honest with yourself to say, I need to knock on the next door, and no feelings are hurt.
The Wedding Market Chat was sponsored by Gaylord Opryland, PSAV Presentation Services, and Wedding Marketing Online. Send your questions and follow the Wedding Market Chat live every Wednesday on Twitter. Check out the Wedding Market on the web at weddingmarketnews.com.